everybody, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. So I designed this card way back in April, kind of mid-ish April, right after we were able to pre-order some of this stuff. And by the time this video actually posts, today is the day of catalog launch, so May 2nd. I've had the stuff sitting on the table for a while. I made the cards a while ago. I actually have about, 32 of them in here. I needed to make 26, I think, for the, I couldn't even remember if I signed up for the swap. I think I did. We can do 3D swaps, 3D things. If you follow my channel, you know that I don't do very many 3D things. And I didn't want to have to come up with one and then drag them halfway across the world. And we're actually leaving in just a few days. But in between me filming this, I'm getting ahead of a few things, as many things as I can, because my stuff's overnighting. Hopefully, cross our fingers that Stampin' Up! And UPS both are on the same page and get my stuff in here. I have to cut, emboss, die cut, embossing folder, punch, collate, pack, print labels, and get 1,500 cards out the door before we leave. So I've been working ahead. So I designed these for my swaps, and then in case any get damaged, and then I'll have a couple extra for like thank yous for people on the trip or along the way. And I wanted to get ready for them, but because I was designing the 1,500 cards, part of them are for my Try It class, which by the time you see this video has gone out the door. And so I was using all of the pre-order stuff that I had. So I designed my swap and I wanted it to use new stuff, but I also needed to incorporate some stuff that was going to carry on, because I didn't want to use up all of my new things when I needed to get as many things pre-cut as I could. So I'm going to show you what I came up with. It's the Countryside Inn. I think you'll really like it. I ended up being very pleased with it. From the things that we could pre-order, none of it was of the stuff that I could use. Like, I loved the daisy paper, but I couldn't use the paper because we did get most of that card cut. A lot of it cut. We have to wait for what's coming. And I liked the daisy stamps, but I'm much more of a colorer. I would have liked to have colored. There weren't the animals you could kind of color, but again, I needed the paper. So it was a little bit of a challenge. So I looked at this, and again, I couldn't use the paper because this card we did get all the way cut and all the way finished, except for the embellishments with what I got in pre-order. So I looked at it and I thought, I think I can make this work. And so I ended up being very pleased, and I was able to incorporate, even though I wanted to use new colors, stuff that was continuing on. So you don't feel like you have to have all new stuff to make something look new. So I'm going to use the Countryside Inn. I'm not going to use the paper, which takes it a whole new spin, because sometimes we get trapped when we see the new stuff. We're like, well, this has to be blue. And it doesn't have to be blue at all. So you're going to see my card and it's not blue. But I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks for using the stamps and the dies. Those of you that are in Try It have already seen me use it, and I've kind of given you a sneak peek of this. But I used it not with the stamps, because in Try It class we can't use stamps. So let's have a little look at this. So the stamp comes, it's one stamp, which is a little bit kind of hard to tell from the way it looks in here, just because of the way they did the color variations. It looks like it might maybe be multiple stamps, and then over here you're like, what the heck is going on with this? So it's a little bit confusing if you haven't seen it in action. The suite does come with a folder, and the paper's fabulous. It's a really pretty paper, but we're just going to use it without. And then it does come with, I think there's 7 dies. We'll look. So let's make this card. So the bundle is called Countryside Corners, and it's a background size stamp. So let's stamp with it first. I am going to use Moody Mauve because that's what I used on the words for my stamp. I did not actually stamp this color on my card as far as this, and I'll show you what I did to create the cards. This design is great if you want to create multiples of things. And I forget that these stamps are brand new. So this will be nice and juicy. Now, the nice thing if you're going to use the dies is it doesn't have to be straight. And if you didn't get a Stamparatus before they're gone, if you have your Stamparatus, you can always use this with that. But if you didn't get one and you're going to do it this way, but it doesn't matter if you're going to use the dies because this is all going to get cut out. So just make sure that you've stamped everywhere. I didn't have any issues, and I did not use the Stamparatus when I made my swaps. And I did, like I said, about 35 of them. And I'm going to leave some at my house for those. We have my mom and my sister and my daughter. We have lots of house sitters while we're gone. So here it is. See, super pretty. Now you can, this is just Moody Mauve on vanilla. So you could color different layers. You could do it in, I did, one of my layers is Pebbled Path ink on Pebbled Path cardstock. One of them, I did it in Versamark on Moody Mauve cardstock, and I embossed it in copper. But you could color them in. You can see in the catalog that it looks like in one of them they colored in the different layers. You can do whatever you want. So the dies come like this. So I'm not going to use this one, but it's for teensy tiny little words, and it actually would fit the words that I used. I just did the larger words. So now let's put this together. So the first time you use them, you're going to have to set them up. So I set them up, and then for the all the rest of the cards, well, my husband did it, and the first time he did it, he moved them, and I was like, I told you not to move them. And so then he had to set them up again. He listened to me after that, and so then after that, you shouldn't have to set them up again. So you just start with the outside or the inside. Actually, I think it's easier if you let's start with the inside, because then you're least likely to move them. And they don't have to be super perfect. If one's a little bit off, especially the way I did my card. Now, if you're going to just put this right back together, but I'm not quite sure why you would. Because you would, more than likely with this card, you're going to mix and match at some point. Like you can leave out a layer and pull string through, or you can use dimensionals and pop some layers up. So you're just going to add these on here. And of course, it'd be easier if I could see over, but I want you to see and not see the top of my head. So this would be easier if you're looking straight down over the top, because then I could see what this is looking like over here. So see, not hard at all. And this, again, only the first time you're going to have to do this. The rest of the times, it's all going to hold together, because you're going to take a Post-it note, just like this. And you just want to make sure that it touches all of them. Just like that. And if you want, you can add 2 Post-it notes. My husband folded them back and forth because, you know, he's not an engineer, but you know, lots of guys have that engineering thing. If your husband's an engineer and he walks into the room, he's probably going to overtake your project. You don't want it to touch the paper. You're just having it touch your dies. And then you can take this like this. In fact, you can move it, because on all the rest of your projects, it's not going to be on top of your paper. So if it moves, it's okay, because you're just going to put it straight back on here. So see, mine's moved a little bit. So you just slide it down, make sure it's back over the top. Pardon my head. And then just make sure they're all nice and lined back up. Just run them through, and you can see when it squishes down. Yeah, you can tell my cat was on the table with me. Nice little cat hair right there in the middle of my Post-it note. Because it may be May 2nd, but we have the heat on here. Next week, when we're ready to go, it's supposed to be in the 70s and 80s all week. So static electricity is about ready to leave us, hopefully, until next fall. So you can see here, you're going to lift this up, and all of your card will fall out. But your dies are going to hold together. So all you have to do now is stamp again, and this will lay right back down And I did all 28 and they all just held with that Post-it note. And in fact, you can take this now and stick it in your stamp case, however you store your dies, if you have them on a magnet board, however you store them. It's not going to last forever because it's a Post-it note. But I mean, that doesn't take, if you don't have 2 minutes, I don't even think it took me 2 minutes. However long it takes you to set that back up, you're going to get at least 30 passes through your die machine before that Post-it note starts to not hold together. And you can see it's pretty, I'm just holding it by the top die. So that's all you have to do. And then you have all of your pieces here. And again, if one of them's not exactly, maybe to the engineers among us, it might make a little bit of a difference, but those are pretty good lined up. In fact, they're lined up better than sometimes when we put a framelit around something and it squishes a little bit. So we have those. If I had lots of time, I would design a card out of that. Time is not something I have a lot of right now, but I'm going to use the I did use the Countryside in folder. The folder that comes with this suite. I threw my catalog on the floor. But here it is in vanilla. That's what I'm going to use it on this card. I did take some Misty Moonlight, and that I ran that through. But this is the background of this card. And so I ran it through this. That's going to be what we mount our stuff on. I ran it through Misty Moonlight, and then I also ran it through this, which is the rose gold paper. It carried over. So this was in the catalog. So this was one of our carryovers. So I had it on hand, and I didn't have to use anything that was going to take away from my class in the pre-order. But with that new folder, and then with the Misty Moonlight and the mauve and the petaled path, it kind of took on a new, because anytime you use these metallic, shimmery, holographic things, they kind of look different when you put them with a different ink. So this was really pretty. And then I ran the Misty Moonlight and this, just lay this right back on here, and see what I mean about having this lined up first from the stamp. It kind of gives you the guide of where they need to go. If you just line them up on a piece of this without the stamp, it's a little bit harder. Now, if you just buy the stamps and you don't buy, just buy the dies and you don't buy the stamps, use I think the stamp in the catalog is to size. If it's not, then print it out from the website to size, so you have something as a guide that you can get those on there the right way. So then that gave me a mix. So I ran them all through. Actually, that's not true. My husband ran them all through. He's a big swap helper. And I took all of the colors. So I took all of the copper embossed on the Moody Mauve, and I laid them, all the rose gold embossed, all the pebbled path, and then all the Misty Moonlight. So I had them all just stacked up. And then I started with the largest of all the frames. And that's almost a full card size. So here's the copper embossed on the Moody Mauve. And I used the green glue, which is the least favorite of our adhesives, but sometimes you need it to do the job you need it to do. And this was the glue for this job. I only use this glue when it's the glue for the job. So I went through all of my cards. I laid all of, if you're mass producing, because this would be a really pretty Christmas card if you did it in Christmas colors. Or, you could do it for wedding invitations or anniversary party invitations. So I could do about 8 at a time. So I laid them all out, and I just did this first. Got all the large frames. It was also easier then to see how to do the placement. And then I took the mushy tip. This one's almost gone. I should have gotten a new one, but the last I looked, they were on back order, and so I'm trying to get the last of all of it out of here. You could probably use seal for this step right here. I want to tell you that if you get my emails, there's not very many emails coming right now because we are out of the country for a little over 2 weeks. So at this point that I have this posting, it should be about the time that we are finishing up our time in the United Kingdom and getting ready to do the actual cruise to Norway. So those of you who get my email will see that I have a special that will post as we bon voyage to the cruise. So you'll want to make sure you check the email, and it should coincide with this. Hopefully, if technology doesn't fail me, because you know when you're overseas and you're on vacation, all of it's set to pre-post. All of this should hopefully post when it should. Then I just took the different colors and I would just go down the line and make sure that they all had something different. And I just laid in here, and this is what green glue was the one. By the end, I couldn't touch anything, and I don't remember, my husband and I were watching Grimm or something, and there was a sticky man on the show, because you know those are like fairy tale characters, and I realized it was a sticky man because he had the powers of the green glue. Everything he touched stuck to him, as it was doing to me. Look how pretty this is. Just keep layering them, and they fit right inside each other. So some of them are stamped, not all of them. And some of them have just been run through with the embossing folder. Now, if you have a bigger saying, you could stamp something in the middle of this, but remember the ones that are blue and rose gold are embossed. So you couldn't stamp on those. And then I just set them all aside to dry. And even though they were green glued, I did stack them all very lightly. None of them stuck together, but that's a risk you take with the green glue. Then I had some of the vanilla, and I took the Love You. Now I will tell you, this stamp set is Timeless Arrangements, and there's a stamp set that's one of the sentiments that says, I don't know, just can't thank you enough. I don't know, it says just can't, and then it has a gap and it has some more words. So you have green glue all over me. I really wanted to put just can't, but I figured we were on the cruise, so maybe then we just could. I was feeling like I just can't when I did it, but now this has the texture on it, but if you press well, it's fine. So I did a whole bunch of love yous, even though I really wanted to say just can't, because I thought it was funny. Just hand trimmed around those. And I did use green glue on these, partly because these have to be packed in my suitcase, and then I don't know what I'm putting them in, not that box I have them in currently. And then I'm toting them all around. We're flying into London, then up to Edinburgh, and then driving all around Scotland, and then back to Edinburgh, and then driving through England, back to London, and then catching the cruise in Southampton. So that's the trip that these little cards will take. So that's the other reason I'm using the green glue. You probably wondered where I got that green glue that I just stuck on there, and when I was flinging it, I got it on the table, so I just wiped it up. Now, I had no ribbon. Well, I had ribbon, but I wanted to save all of the ribbon for my Try It class. So if you don't know what my Try It class is, you missed out, because the cards are really good. Well, I say that, and half of them right now are designed onto typing paper, and I'm hoping that when I get my real paper, they look just as good. But look at this. This is our sorbet ribbon that's currently in the new catalog, but it was in last year's. And look at it with the mauve and that rose, because our stuff coordinates. It coordinates so well. This may be too short because I pre-cut all of the ribbon, so I would just have to be able to tie it on here. And originally I was gonna, fluff it all out like I like to do with this ribbon. And when you have to do this many of them, I was like, it doesn't need to be fluffed. It looks just pretty. And plus it's gonna be smushed by the time we get there. And then these are fronts, and we do full cards for our swaps. A million years ago, we used to do card fronts. They're not usable. Like, you want to be able to use them, whether or not you donate them. Sometimes I give them in my thank you packets when I do. Swaps are not my favorite thing. Partly just because I'm busy, but look, that looks so pretty. And then for embellishments, I did the brushed metallic adhesive back dots. These also carried over. The gold didn't look great, so I have tons of gold left. I have to find another project. They were in last year's catalog and they carried over, but both the copper and the bronze color looks just like Pebbled Path, and then this copper color matches the rose gold. I don't remember how many I put on because, you know, I like to use 5 embellishments. So I probably put 5. It's one. I have some cards sitting here that need to be finished. I did put 5. That's why I have so many gold left. I told myself to just do 3. But once you get going on 5 embellishments, guys, it's really hard to just do 3. I did 3 and try it because when you're buying thousands of embellishments and cutting them up and packing them into packets, you have to stop somewhere. Otherwise, I would spend literally hundreds of dollars. But that's why I have all these gold ones. So if you're in my VIP, if you get VIP projects, be expecting to have VIP projects that have some gold. I'll put this back in a second. So here's this one. And so then I just folded over a vanilla piece of cardstock and mounted that on so it was a false front on there. And see, you could easily add that and have another layer. So this one has, oh, I don't know. I do have another one that's similar to this one. So that has the mauve as the tall one. This one here was my prototype, and I did take Wink of Stella and added it to the Moonlight layer. And this was when I frayed the ribbon. It got a couple of steps taken off because when you start doing multiples and you're short on time, I decided they were just as pretty, a little bit simpler. And if anybody who got this swap then wants to up it, they can easily sit there on their plane right on the way home and they can do their ribbon and they can add some Wink of Stella. So that one, you can see how it kind of just switches up the look because this one has more Moonlight, but they're all just mixed and matched. They were all the same pieces. This one has the Pebbled Path. This one did have a piece of the Stella still on it. These were all prototypes. None of the ones that made the cut. But this one also has copper. This one has the thing. So there you go. Make a whole card with this because this is just beautiful. You could run that through here and maybe just put 1 or 2 of a different frame. The options with the set are endless. So there you go. And look, it's your little tip. Just Post-it note that sucker up and you're good to go. So everybody take care. If you have emailed me, understand I am not answering emails because especially once I get on the cruise, we did not pay for the internet package. So I will pay to upgrade my shipping to get you guys to your classes and your clubs. I'm not paying for internet so I can work while I'm on vacation. I have my limits. So I am paying for a cleaning lady to come to the house tomorrow. I don't do that very often. Like once a decade maybe, but this was the time for this decade. Everybody have a great day. Bye.